Imagine waking up every morning, working a full-time job, putting in long hours, and still feeling like you're playing catch-up. Not because you're lazy, but because the goalposts of normal life have moved so far ahead of you, it feels like you're running in place. Today, most Americans say they need about $840,000 just to feel financially comfortable. Not rich, not retired, just safe. But here's the hard truth. For a huge number of people, especially younger adults, actually owning a chunk of that amount is a distant dream. So how did we get here? Why does the American dream feel so out of reach? In this video, we're going to break it down. We'll talk wages, housing, debt, and the way this crisis is reshaping not just individual lives, but the very structure of society. Stick with me, because by the end, you'll understand not just why this is happening, but what it means for our future, and maybe even for you. The illusion of progress. On paper, it looks like things should be better. Wages are higher than ever. But when you adjust for the real cost of living, things aren't pretty. Inflation-adjusted wages, that's what economists call real wages, have barely budged since the 1970s. For decades, workers have gotten small raises, but the things they actually need, housing, childcare, healthcare, college, have skyrocketed. It's like running in a marathon where your legs move, but the finish line keeps sprinting away. The illusion of inflation. You've probably heard that inflation is under control, but here's the catch. The most common measure, the CPI, averages in hundreds of items, from clothes to electronics. Many of those non-essentials have actually gotten cheaper or more efficient over time, like TVs or laptops. These lower prices drag down the average, but what really matters? The stuff you can't avoid: rent, insurance, healthcare, childcare. That's where the pain is concentrated and where inflation has been running wild. Childcare costs in many U.S. cities now rival a mortgage payment. Healthcare? Even with insurance, copays and premiums are crushing. These aren't luxuries, they're essentials. The housing trap. If owning a home used to be the cornerstone of the American dream, today it feels like an exclusive club, one that's getting harder to get into. The median U.S. home price is around $417,000. For many, that's more than 5 times their annual income. In contrast, in the 1980s, a home cost about 3.5 times as much as the average income. That might still feel big, but it was doable. Now, not so much. And people are delaying or skipping that milestone entirely. The average age of a first-time homebuyer is now 38, the oldest it's ever been. In previous generations, people bought homes in their late 20s. That decade of delay matters. Why is housing so expensive? Supply shortage. We're short an estimated 4 million homes in the U.S. Restrictive zoning rules prevent denser building. Many neighborhoods are locked into low-density single-family homes. That limits options for affordable apartments or starter homes. Institutional investors. Corporations and large investors now compete with families for homes. In some places, the bidding war isn't between you and your neighbor, it's between you and a company. And companies often win. Generational wealth gap. Boomers, who bought earlier, own the bulk of homes. Many have built up hundreds of thousands in home equity. Younger buyers, they don't have that built-in advantage. If your parents bought a house 30 years ago, you're starting from a different place. The rising essential cost burden. Let's zoom out to what some economists call the American dream basket. This isn't about luxuries. It's the bare bones essentials: a roof over your head, food on the table, transportation, healthcare, childcare, and the tools you need to work, like a reliable laptop or internet. Since 2001, the cost of that basket has doubled. But the average incomes for many of the bottom 60% of households haven't kept pace. To put it in perspective, if your household income is around $38,000 per year, but the cost to cover that basic basket hits $67,000 plus, you're facing a $30,000 gap just to meet minimal stability. That's not living large. That's trying not to fall behind. Debt, debt, debt. Coping by borrowing. When basic costs rise faster than income, people don't just save less. Many borrow more. Here's how. 1. Credit cards. U.S. credit card debt has topped $1.2 trillion, the highest ever recorded. And credit card interest rates? On average, over 24%. That means a $1,000 balance doesn't stay there long unless paid off aggressively. 2. Buy now, pay later, BNPL. What started as a convenience for shopping is now a lifeline for essentials. People are using BNPL for groceries, supplies, even medical needs. And 3. Student loans. Many young people enter adult life buried in $38,000 to $41,000 of student debt. That's a heavy load to carry into a tough job market, especially when wages are tight and costs are climbing. This is not debt to get ahead. It's debt to stay in place, to maintain a semblance of stability. The generational divide. Part of what's fueling this problem is a generational divide. Boomers bought homes when prices were relatively low compared to income. They benefited from equity accumulation. Now, younger generations are facing something very different. Here's what people report they feel they need to feel stable. Boomers, $943,000 of comfortable wealth. Millennials, $847,000. Gen X, $783,000. These numbers aren't just about money. They reflect expectations shaped by rising costs. But what's even more important is the starting line. If you bought a home in the 1980s, you might already have a chunk of that wealth via equity. If you're buying now, that starting point is much farther away. This isn't just a personal setback, it's a structural inequality. The system is increasingly stacked in favor of those who had early access. How life is changing. Because it has to. Visual, montage of people working remotely, nomads traveling, young adults discussing doom spending. Because the old economic roadmap doesn't work the way it used to, people are finding new ways to survive and sometimes even thrive. Here is a few of them. 1. Remote work and nomadism. With remote jobs becoming more common, people are choosing to live where costs are lower. Some are moving abroad. Others are relocating to more affordable U.S. states. Instead of climbing a corporate ladder, income becomes a modular piece. You mix and match freelance gigs, remote roles, side hustles. 2. Changing milestones. Many are delaying or waiving once normal adult goals, buying a home, having kids, settling down. The traditional concept of adulthood is shifting. 3. Doom spending. When long-term goals like home ownership or retirement feel out of reach, people turn to short-term comfort. That designer bag, that spontaneous trip, the luxury phone upgrade. They're not just indulgences. For many, they're coping mechanisms. Moments where you feel in control in a system that feels increasingly out of control. And 4. Mental and emotional toll. The strain is real. Financial stress is deeply tied to anxiety, burnout, and disillusionment. The fight to stay afloat year after year wears people down.
The stakes. What this means for society. This isn't just an individual crisis, it's a societal one, and it's shaping the future in ways we might not even realize yet. Home ownership decline. If younger people keep postponing or abandoning home ownership, the long-term consequences could be huge. Local tax bases could shrink, affecting public services, schools, infrastructure. Wealth concentration. Housing equity is increasingly concentrated among older, wealthier Americans. That reinforces inequality, not based on merit or effort, but on timing. Labor and migration. As remote work enables relocation, people are voting with their feet. But moving to cheaper regions often means lower wages, which could stress government revenues and widen regional disparities. Social cohesion. When a large portion of a generation can't catch up, belief in the social contract frays. The idea that hard work leads to steady progress is under threat. Real-life stories and examples. Let me share a few stories that illustrate just how deeply this plays out in real life. The first-time homebuyer at 38. Sarah, a 38-year-old teacher in Ohio, finally saved enough for a down payment after years of scrimping, credit card juggling, and side jobs. Mortgage rates were high, and every time she bid on a modest house, she lost out to institutional buyers. When she comments to her parents, who bought their home in their 20s, they don't quite understand. They had zero competition from corporations. The remote worker nomad. Jamal, in his early 30s, works remotely for a small startup. He moved from New York to Medellin, Colombia, because the cost of living was half. His salary dropped, but the reduced cost of housing, food, and childcare gave him breathing room. He sends money home, travels often, and says he's rewritten his own American dream. Credit card lifeline. Maria is a single mom, working a retail job. Healthcare premiums and copays eat away at her paycheck. She uses credit cards for medical bills, groceries, and daycare, making minimum payments. She's never late, but the debt keeps growing. She worries, am I just patching holes until I collapse? Why it's not just about spending less. There's a common narrative. If people just budgeted better, saved more, bought less coffee. But that's a shallow fix. The problem isn't how people are spending. It's why the math doesn't work. This is a systemic issue. The cost of essentials is decoupled from wage growth. Debt isn't just a choice anymore. For many, it's survival. And generational advantages are baked into the system. If we want to fix this crisis, we have to look bigger than personal finance tips. We need policies, more affordable housing, stronger worker protections, healthcare reform, childcare support. Reforms that align what people earn with what they have to pay. Conclusion and takeaways. Here's what matters. The American dream as we knew it is changing. Not because people are lazy or undisciplined, but because the rules have changed. Our current system increasingly favors those who had early access. That's not just inequality, it's a generational lock-in. Many people aren't just borrowing to invest, they're borrowing to survive. That's dangerous, both personally and collectively. Real solutions need to be structural. Individual discipline is not enough. We need policy changes, economic reforms, and a reevaluation of what affordability means. This moment could be a turning point. If enough people adapt, demand change, or build different pathways forward, we might yet redefine what the American dream is for a new generation. Talk about this. Share your story. Support policies that make essentials more affordable. Because if most Americans can't afford America anymore, then America needs to afford its people.